Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, guys? Real Fans Podcast. How we doing, guys? My name's Will. Let me make sure I get it right. There we go. I got Adam above me. I got my boy Julian above me as well. Guys, we are tuning in. Episode 39. We're hyped. We got a lot of big stuff coming up ahead. Champions League ball. We're talking about UEFA. We're also going to talk a little bit about Concacaf Champions League ball a little bit.
What a start. But either way,
you can tell we got A+ production here.
Will got a little too excited.
Fiber wire internet plugged straight into the computer.
Fiber wire.
$10,000. I don't even know what I'm fucking saying. Fiber optic. Is that what it is?
Dude,
what is it called?
We've got shit all over.
Fiber. Just fiber. Fuck. Jesus.
Basically, listen, I know y'all are probably like, Will's Wi-Fi's ass. It is ass right now. Hurricane Helena absolutely destroyed a lot of this town. Connection's really bad. So please bear with me. But guys, like I said, we got a lot of big action. Just want to check in. Adam, Julian, guys, how we feeling? We ready? Episode 39. How are y'all doing?
I'm excited, man. I'm excited. We had a week off, but we're back. And I think we should start it off talking about the October international window. And not only just that, but we also are going to discuss Nations League within Concacaf and some of the friendlies that happened, so on and so forth. So, let's start with the top four teams that didn't actually have to play Nations League because they automatically qualified into the knockout rounds, which I think is a little weird. I will say that we do that in the first place. I think why not just have them play in league play? But either way, because I was telling Adam before we got on the show, it's a little odd because it's like, well, you're just going to have to do friendlies against each other because everybody else either has World Cup qualifying, Nations League, so you're forced to just play friendlies with Mexico, or like Mexico had to play with Valencia, and it's just weird. Like, why not just throw them in the league play?
Like, what are they afraid that they're going to make it through easily through the thing into the knockout phases through the groups? I mean, come on, what I think that's the whole point. It's like, oh no, you guys would have been very, this is a cakewalk for you guys. Go ahead through to the knockout stage.
I think we know the answer though, boys. Concacaf.
Yeah,
I'm gonna leave it there.
I don't think it. I mean, you're gonna play each other anyways, but I don't know. If you do one league, but either way. Let's start off with the first team, and that is the country that we live in, and that is the United States of America. They played against Panama in a 1-0 win, and then they got 2-0 win, my bad, and then a brutal beatdown from Mexico in a 2-0 loss. So I'm gonna point it to you, Will, first. What was your thoughts on this USA team that was obviously, I think in a lot of people's opinion, was a B team because they had a ton of injuries, but
biggest takeaways, like you just said, Julian, no Pepe, no Party. No Pulisic, obviously, in that second game. No Weston McKennie is injured. Florian Balogun. Cameron Carter-Vickers, Chris Richards, I don't even think was called up for injury. List goes on and on and on. Tim Ream's your captain. Dude's like, he looks like Adam's dad. You know what I mean? The guy, he's an older man. Listen, all due respect, love Tim Ream. I think those guys are coming to a short end.
My dad does not have that hair.
It's even better, yeah. But dude, the thing is, though, biggest takeaways I'll say real quick on the USA with this roster, it's going to take time. I think that's something that a lot of U.S. fans, obviously Mauricio Pochettino, the style that he brings, and that's always kind of been Pochettino's style. Whenever he got to Spurs, whenever he even arrived to Chelsea and a lot of those big teams that he was at, it's going to take time to develop. And him coming from the club level, it's not just international play. It's like, boom, sweet, here we go. We're firing at all cylinders. Florian Balogun, these guys, he's going to have to realize.
Well, I'll just butt in real quick and give my thoughts because I didn't watch too much of both of US's matchups, mainly because I knew how the lineup was going to look. And I agree with what Will's getting at with Pochettino and his style. But I think, half of it's bad luck. Obviously, when you have that many injuries, it's not a fortunate situation. It's not really something you can predict. But I also feel like that's still the difference between the US and everybody else who's competing at the top level in the world. You know, you look at some of these countries like a Spain, like a France, you know, like a Germany and an England and Italy. They play their B or C teams, and their B or C teams are still going to win these easy games, no problem, and they're going to look really good, and they're still going to have names on there that you're like, oh yeah, that guy, they play all, you know. But US's B team, it's like, okay, well, what the fuck? Who do we got? You know, and that's still US's problem. They got the talent, but they don't have enough of it. You know, a few players are missing here and there, and you know they're lacking.
But Will, you want to finish your thought since you now that you're back?
Yeah. Real quick, I'll just add, kind of like Adam said. Listen, that the depth chart does fall for the U.S. I mean, when you have to make that jump, you know, from a Florian Balogun or a Ricardo Pepe down to like a Brandon Vasquez, you know, it's kind of like, is this what we want from the Monterrey guy? Listen, that Mexico game, I will say, Mexican fans, they believe they're back. You know, the Dos Acero, you know, back at him. Listen, for Mexico fans, all I would say is it was a friendly. Congrats, you did win. That was good, but I wouldn't get too hyped. I wouldn't get too over top of the board. Same thing with Panama. If we would have beat Canada, I wouldn't have looked at this as like, oh my God, we are that team. We are credible. We played well. You know, we'll get to them in a second, both of those teams. But listen, yeah, no, the U.S. has time. They've got a lot of work to do. They've got 2 years time, less than 2 years now. They're hosting a goddamn World Cup, and they still can't get their shit together. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I want to say too, like, I don't put any blame on Pochettino this window. I mean, he's still trying to figure out who these players are and whatnot. And the thing too, I do want to put in perspective is that a lot of these lineups, they haven't played with each other. This is kind of, for this B team, the first time they've really played with each other, because Berhalter never really called up a lot of these guys prior. So, because I will say USA's B team is probably still the best team in the region, because you have guys like Gianluca Busio, you have guys like Aiden Morris. Now, I don't think Brendan Harrison's good. Like, I just don't think he's a good player personally at the highest of levels. You have Malik Tillman, who just seems to just absolutely be ghost for Team USA. It makes no sense. He plays well for PSV, but then when it comes to the US, he just doesn't feel like it just looks like he doesn't want to compete for the starting spot ahead of Gio Reyna, which is very dangerous from a USA perspective, because we all know Gio Reyna's injury history. This guy feels like he's injured every other window. It's hard to consistently rely on. Maybe things will change as he gets older and he gets bigger and, you know, maybe gets a little bit more size. Who knows? But I will say is, like, I would be really scared as a USA fan, the fact that it just seems like you don't have that next person in line to be a playmaker and a play chance creator that we kind of thought Malik Tillman was going to be. Now, I do think with the likes of Aiden Morris and Gianluca Busio, these are guys, like I said, they haven't really gotten any play time together. They're still trying to figure things out. Josh Sargent hasn't really played a ton either at the top, because if it's not Balogun, it's usually Pepe. So I'm not going to fault these guys too much, because I wasn't expecting a whole lot, especially after the first game, once Pulisic and a couple other players went back to their clubs. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time to figure out, because I think this B squad still needs to get fleshed out. The A squad, I think they've got enough games under each other's belt playing with each other that I think they're good. But there is some windows, and there's going to be some more camps of this B squad being able to, like, put some pieces together and really figure out the depth chart, because I do think there's still enough quality on this USA team to have a pretty solid depth. It's just a matter of building that chemistry and continuing to get more call-ups and, you know, continuously playing more for their camp. So, but I will say, though, the defensive to the center back situation is really rough. I mean, Tim Ream, like, how many times are you going to call this guy up? I mean, I get he's a veteran, he's a legend in the USA, but man, this guy, even in MLS, he hasn't looked the best. Even for Charlotte, he has really struggled at times. I think I don't mind maybe calling him up, but I don't think you can rely on him to be a consistent starter. Miles Robinson, he's just not it. He's just not good. He was losing headers against Gino Huerta, like, and Gino Huerta's like, what, 5'7"? Miles Robinson's like 6'2". It's like, how are you losing these
Gino Huerta's a dog,
aerial?
but still.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be losing these duels if you got like 5
No.
inches on a guy, more than 5 inches. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, like you said, you had guys like Cameron Carter-Vickers injured. You had Chris Richards who didn't make it to the camp. So obviously, it's going to be a little bit more improved. But I will say the center back position really kind of worries me in terms of the USA because the goalkeeper behind them is not either. This guy, I think you got to give Schulte a chance. Personally, I know he got called up and started for the Olympic squad. I think you have to figure out who you have in him because Matt Turner is just, I think we've seen his peak and I don't see him getting any better. He seems to be regressing. So I'm in the ballpark where it's like, give him a shot. I mean, that's how Matt Turner got his shot. You had a guy like Zach Steffen who was in Manchester City.
Yeah.
He wasn't performing well. Then you put in Matt Turner and then Matt Turner got his transfer out. So I think Schulte's a young guy. He's shown he can make mistakes, but he's shown he's got potential to be at least a good shot stopper. Why not give him a chance and try to? I felt like this was the perfect window to do it too, especially in a friendly environment.
I mean, he's another.
I think he's too young, and he looks like, according to people who are following him at the club level, that he's kind of struggling right now. So I don't know, but either way. But let's move on to the next team, and Will briefly talked about him is Mexico. Will, why don't you give us your thoughts on Mexico this window? They played Valencia in a friendly, and then they played obviously the USA.
Yeah, got that infamous 2-0 Dos Acero win over the US, and then tied Valencia. I'll be real with you guys real quick. After that, talking about the center back role, after that Valencia game, I thought Johan Vasquez and Cesar Montes looked like 7-year-old kids playing down the youth park. I mean, these guys were getting run up by a Valencia B team. I was kind of shocked.
Facing relegation.
That's facing relegation and a B team. These were majority of these guys got called up and said, let's go take a trip to Puebla and let's go play the Mexican national team. And they said, sure. So that looked incredibly just like, whoa.
It's hilarious,
obviously,
by the way.
Yeah.
That whole I don't know. It just seems wild to me. This time of the year, it's just like, fuck it. Let's go to fucking Mexico and play the fucking Mexican national team. Jesus Christ, guys. What are we doing here? It's just funny. And Will's frozen. But I just wanted to add that because I just thought that, it's just wild to think about. It's like, wait a second, what month is it? You look at the calendar and you're like,
well, it's an international break, so why not? And it's like we were talking about earlier, there's no one else to play friendlies with. So
I don't know. It just seems like an expensive trip for no reason.
I'm sure Mexico paid out. Anyway,
they're fans.
What were you saying?
Yeah. Listen, biggest takeaways from this team. Julian even said it himself. Chino Huerta, man, it's not the hair, it's not the speed. This guy's a dog, dude. I hate him or love him. The dude's a dog. He's an animal. He plays with Pumas, and even with Pumas, who's not even that good of a team in the Liga MX, he still is a dog with them, and he showed it. Got a good goal. Obviously, the big name everybody's talking about. Is he back? Is he not back? Raul Jimenez. Listen, I will say Santi Jimenez. Is he finally, dude? And listen, I won't take anything from Raul. Obviously, I'm a Mexican national team supporter, but I will give Raul his credit. Before the head injury in 2020, Raul was that guy. He was that guy for Mexico. Listen, he had a really bad head injury when he was playing in the Prem. Obviously, he really, really digressed after that. Not his fault, of course. But, dude, I have to say, though, Vasco Aguirre, you can tell he's trying to get back to his ways. I know people are obviously still pissed off. Luis Romo, Charlie Rodriguez, guys like this are playing. Edson Alvarez. Listen, the Mexican national team, they seem, and especially after this win, that's the problem. And that's what gets scary about the Mexico team is when they pick a couple wins and they get a couple, good victories in these friendly matches. And especially one being over the arch rival, the country, like you guys said, we live in the USA. These guys can pick up steam, and they really can. And not only do they pick up steam, they get well in these CONCACAF tournaments. We very well much know this Mexico national team in the past, not the current one that we've known the past 2 to 3 years, but in the past of being just a brutal, beat down type of team. Even they don't play down to their opponents, and that's the type of thing that Mexico is like that. And they can play up. They can play up to teams. So I would say good window for them. If I had to rate it, I'd give them a B+, only because of that tie. If they would have won, it would have been an A. But I'll say it, Mexico, they got a lot of positive to take away. But still, that center back position, they got to figure that out.
No, yeah, and I agree with you. I think if you're a Mexican fan, you can't take this game too much into consideration because of the USA squad that was out there. It just seemed like they were still trying to figure things out and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I'll give flowers where it needs to be given, and that is Raul Jimenez. Is look, he was on a run in the Prem for Fulham. He's been playing really well, getting assists against Manchester City. Scoring and not anything for like
very well.
He's been playing very well over there. And now he came over here and kept the momentum going. You could tell he was playing free. He was trying to style on him. He was going for chilenas and he's going for he was feeling it. He was feeling it, man. And he got assist in the goal in this game. And look, I think that's something to take in consideration that he might be, even though he is older and everybody wanted Santi Jimenez to take the reins and be the next, I don't know, fucking Chicharito or whatever, but he hasn't showed up for Mexico. He's been an absolute ghost. And if you're a Mexican fan, you were feeling really worried at first. I'm like, oh my gosh, who's next in line to really be a number 9? But luckily, like you said, you have Raul Jimenez, but by 2026 in the World Cup, the guy's going to be 35, which I'm not saying he can't be productive because we can look at the likes of Luis Suarez, who is still being productive. Granted, he's not starting for Uruguay, but nonetheless, if he can keep the streak going and keep his momentum moving, that's great. But I think if you're a Mexico fan, I think you should feel pretty good about the USA victory, but not take it too much into consideration because I will say that loss against Valencia, or not the loss, but the draw against Valencia, I felt like that would also be kind of worrisome for me too. I could feel coming out of this window just being I don't know. I'm not really sure. But anyways, let's move on to the next team, and that is Canada, the Great White North, the brothers above.
Drake's boys, Justin Bieber.
Yeah,
Justin
but
Trudeau.
Will, I'll let you take it over because they played against your team. I saw. Well, I couldn't find who Canada played the first match at all. Did they only have one friendly? Okay, I thought so.
Just played,
because I was double checking when I was looking because I saw the Panama game, but then I was trying to see who else they played, which I thought was really weird.
Then we can make it easy because I did not watch that game, and if it's just a one game, then we can let Will, and then if you watched it, Julian, you could touch on it as well. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about that. Sorry, didn't watch.
Hit it, Will.
Yeah, listen, dude, I'll go at it real quick. They probably don't watch the podcast. I don't care. I don't give a shit, but I'm still going to call them out. Joel Waterman, Richie Larea, and Maxime Crepeau. Pull up to me. I will beat your ass. I will attack you with 4.5 million Panamanians. Come up to us again, and I'll whoop your ass. Dude, all due respect, listen, and I'm gonna take my bias cap off. I don't know if you guys saw. We'll talk about it a little bit more, obviously, Nations League, matchups, whatnot, stuff like that. Dude, listen, Canada, good window. I think, honestly, to be honest, Panama, I mean, dude, we're a dog-biting team, bro. We're not afraid of anybody. We can show that. We don't even give a shit where we're playing. We will go into BMO Field when none of these guys, I promise you, Freddy Gondola has probably never seen snow in his life, or Christian Fulo Martinez probably doesn't even really know what it's like to get underneath 30 degrees Fahrenheit. But we will go into BMO Field in Toronto and we'll play. And we'll get to them in a second. I apologize again. But listen, dude, Canada, solid window for him. I think the biggest thing that Canada was, and for Jesse Marsh, they were looking for, and like you said, they only had this one game. They didn't play a game previous to the Panama game. Was they're just trying to find more options, kind of similar to the U.S. Obviously, they know their A squad debt, but they're trying to find who are other guys. Saliba, if Theo Blair could step up a little bit, in that 9 role. Chouanier, who's going to step up for Ismail Kone, who's still dealing from a injury recovery. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of guys. And I mean, dude, even Joel Waterman in that center back role, if, Moises Bombito or Derek Cornelius, one of those guys go down. Listen, I think there's a lot of big things. I will say it. I'll shout this guy out, dude. Ali Ahmed, brother. The man is the truth, dog. Man is really the truth. Steps up, plays well, is on it. Basically, other than Anibal Godoy, which we'll get to them in a sec, Ali Ahmed's created that first chance goal, presses it, gets the ball, wins it back, perfect pass. And if I'm not wrong, Kyle Lauren finishes it. Good for Kyle Lauren, got himself a goal. Obviously, Jonathan David, Alfonso Davies, Jonathan Osorio, you could even throw in there, Stefan Estacchio, guys like that. We already knew these guys could produce at a high level. So I think the big thing for Canada, I'd give it a B. No, I'll give it an A. They got a win over a really good team my boys in Panama. So I think the big thing for them is they just needed to find more guys, more options. Obviously, I don't know if Tani Oyasu is not called up for this window. I'm not 1,000,000% sure, the Minnesota United kid, but
Yeah, he was called up, by the way.
that to the Canadians, man, that field was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll talk. So one thing I got to say is, man, Jonathan David is by far the best striker in CONCACAF. That guy has been a monster. I mean, that sequence on the goal, that sequence on the goal was insane. That was just a beautiful play between him and Liam Miller. It was Liam Miller, I believe, right?
Liam Miller, yeah.
Okay. It was Liam Miller. Okay, I just want to double check. I couldn't remember if it was Schaffelberg or Liam Miller. Two blonde white boys, but nonetheless,
two Canadians.
No, man, beautiful sequence. It just seemed all together. They played just a really good game. This Canada squad looked like they continued exactly right where they left off in the past window. Is just playing well, playing fast, and trying to attack on the counter, and just looking good for the most part. I will say too that the defensive stability in Canada has gotten progressively better. Like you're seeing the likes of Bombito. Like people are talking about Bombito being the best center back in CONCACAF, which is possible.
Who's better than him?
But it's a low bar. You know what I mean? Like the center back position in CONCACAF is really weak right now. I mean, you have arguments for maybe Chris Richards or I don't know. It's there. But I do think, I mean, he might be. I mean, I want to see a little bit more consistently. And once we get into more serious games, maybe give him a couple months. But he's definitely in there. Right now, he might be the best. But yeah, I think, like you said, it was a good way to kind of determine, see what you got in Chouanier and other, and just be home, get some more reps together. That's what it seemed like with Canada. Just get another game under their belt. I was kind of surprised to not see them do another friendly of some sorts, but there is limited options, and it's do you want to face Mexico again? But yeah, man, I was impressed. I think Canada's continuing to just look like the most cohesive team. They just, when you look at that team, it seems like not that they're perfect on all levels, but they have solid options at every level of the field.
Yeah.
It seems like at least serviceable. So, and their depth is getting better. And I feel like even though they have MLS depth, they have pretty solid MLS depth on top of that. These aren't Joe Schmo, nobodies. So I'm pretty impressed with Canada. They continue to impress me. I think they're going to be a really solid team. I'm really curious to see what happens when we get to the knockout rounds and we got the top 8 that are now in there. But let's bounce it over to your squad. Will, you had 2 games, Panama. You had first one, double losses against the United States and then also against against Canada. A little bit of a disappointing window for you guys, but how did you feel about this window?
Dude, real quick, the biggest headlines, the biggest points that I personally take away from this window, I give it a C, arguably C, D around there. Only reason I'd potentially give it a C is just the performances we had. We didn't get blown out either game. Realistically, arguably, a lot of people are saying, even within, not just in Panama, but outside of that, within CONCACAF themselves, are saying this easily could have been a 4-point window for us, a draw and a win. We could have arguably potentially have beaten Canada. It was a toss-up, or even 2 wins, or not 2 wins, 2 ties, 2 draws.
Canada had a lot of shots on you guys.
That's what I was going to say. It could have been 2 ties. Obviously, the Jonathan David late goal, heroics from him. But, dude, the biggest question mark still that continues with us, and the biggest three things I have to take away still is, 1, who is going to be Anibal Godoy's replacement? Christian Martinez steps in, plays well, not the worst. Obviously, talking about depth, midfield, we lack. We lack a lot. Coco Carrasquilla is arguably, my personal opinion, I'm a little biased, obviously. I'm going to be. He's the best midfielder in all of CONCACAF right now. He's hot. He's on it. Dude's got the best hair, best flow. The kid's kicking ass. I don't know why we didn't start him against Canada. I understand we're trying to mess around with Godoy, Ayarza.
He's not the best midfielder, but he's not better than Edson Alvarez. You get that.
Who, Coco Carrasquilla?
He's not better than
by
Edson
far.
Alvarez.
He's what. We'll talk about that for another day, but dude,
He's like,
we'll talk about
okay,
it
hold on.
Hey, by far, he's arguably one of the best players in Concacaf, but argument for another day. Like I said, dude, the other two things is one, I just got to, we don't know who our replacement for left back is going to be. Edgar Joel Barcenas is a starting right winger at Mazatlan. He's played like that all his life. Listen, Eric Davis is 33 years old, plays in Serie B over in Brazil, the second Brazilian league, which isn't bad. He's 33 and he's prone to injuries. This is a position that we're just fluctuating guys. We're trying to access our black men who did well. I liked him in the USA game. Listen, in these two games, also the biggest outlier, not only in these two games, but it's still carrying on from the CONCACAF Nations League. Who's going to be our goal scorer? Eduardo Guerrero obviously steps in, and we see a lot of them. I'll say for me, I have the confidence in him and Fajardo. I mean, we saw the finish that he had against Canada. I mean, dude, that's brutal. That was a brutal ass finish, dude. That no balls. He wasn't scared at BMO Field. So the problem isn't finding those guys. It's in the moments. It almost seems like when they have the most easiest goal opportunities, it just goes away. This drive, this goal. I don't know. I sent the link to you, Julian. I don't know if you guys saw it. Literally, Michael Murillo, who shout out, by the way, best player in both games. I fucking love him. He's amazing. He's incredible, especially in that U.S. game. Dude was kicking ass all over Anthony Jedi Robinson. But, dude, draws a ball perfectly on the center, right to Fajardo. Blast it over. And it's like, dude, commentators are even saying in Spanish, that has to be the draw. That has to be a goal. That has to be a tie. Like, come on, put that in the back of the net. And this is the problem. And I'm not going to lie to you. Listen, another fear that I see as well, and going off the negatives, is Puma Rodriguez. There's a lot of fear with the wing play. Like I said, Joel Parsons is going back. Cesar Blackman's a right back naturally. He's not a right winger. So it's almost kind of like, who are these guys that are going to be producing? Because we have to push Michael Murillo. Carrasquilla has to go on the wings, it seems like. So a lot of times we have to have these guys be the ones sending up the ball. Center backs, though, I will say, talking real quick on positives, Giovanni Ramos, dude, get this guy a fucking Medal of Honor. Man was great. Man was really on his shit, dude. I mean, he was playing, dude, he was playing really good. Fidel Escobar, I was a little bit worried about him. Did his stuff, dude. Edgardo Farinha looked good against the U.S., picked up a little knock at the end of the game. All in all, like I said, I give it a C. We learned some stuff about certain guys. We can trust Giovanni Ramos. We can find Fulo Martinez can come up clutch when we need him. We can start him now. We don't have to keep going with Anibal Godoy. He's old. He's not playing. He plays in Nashville, who's literally almost at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Like, dude, we don't have to keep relying on certain guys. And I feel like we need to mix up a little bit in the roster. There's the biggest thing, and I'll say real quick in Panama, there's a lot of talk. People want to mix it up. There's young guys. I mean, Kaiser Lenny started against Canada, and I think he played well. You know, we need to kind of get this little bit. We have some younger guys that play in the wing, that play in the midfield, that even play on the right back and left back position. But now it's just time to give them that call up. So we'll see. We'll see next month.
Yeah, a little bit to what you're saying. I kind of agree with you. It seems like Thomas Christensen is kind of afraid to play some of these younger guys because, like, man, you look at the starting 11, it's like most of these guys are over 30. Like, there's a lot of older guys and a lot. I'm looking at it now.
It's
a
like
lot
26. They're all in that
like,
prime. Other than Godoy.
No, dude. I'm looking at Lenny's. That's all right. This beast. I don't know. They're still. It's pretty old for the most part as I'm going through these. But there's some that are like prime age. But I agree with you, dude. Like, your Achilles heel is not being able to score. Like, it's just there's not a clinical finisher, and also just a little bit of lack of speed. Like, you guys just need some runners up top that can just really break the lines. And it seems like you guys do very well in possession and holding the ball, but it's making that final pass and having that guy who can break the line, because you have clearly the chance creator in Coco Carrasquilla. I've seen him in Houston just absolutely drop dimes for people. It's just having the guy who can get it too. And I think, like you said, you just got to throw some young guys and see who can catch it. You just got to see what happens. And it's interesting because you see Christensen, and his play style is very go-getter, a little bit more freestyle, but he's not really like that with his call-ups, though, which I think is kind of interesting. He seems to be playing it pretty safe and not risking putting young guys out there. And you need to, because at the end of the day, it is 2024. 4, and you got 2 more years, and these guys are just going to get 2 years older. So, yeah, hopefully for you guys' sake that somebody can come through the ranks and kind of be that, add some speed, because I think defensively you guys are pretty stout and you guys can hold down pretty well because for the most part, Mosquera has been a monster for you guys.
He has.
I think. I mean, getting 10, having Canada had 10 shots on goal and you only give up 2 is not
He's
bad.
the Pedro Galese. So, he's the Pedro Galese of Concacaf, the way I feel. I mean, he's a beast, dude.
Yeah.
He's incredible. But yeah.
So, yeah. So we can move on to the next team, and I can start it off. This was my team is Costa Rica. So we've gone through the top 4. Now we're going into the next 3, which are the teams that advance through league phase. So in Costa Rica, this window we had Suriname and Guatemala. The Suriname game was a little disappointing. The ref was one of the worst refs I've ever seen. Honestly, atrocious reffing, giving us yellow cards left and right. And then eventually leading to one of our star players, Osimar Alcocer, to get a red card and suspended for the next match. So he just left early, went back to Belgium to play. So it was just a drag of a game, just doing the same old. It felt like that just wasn't. And I was feeling really down on that Suriname game. Like, honestly, it felt like it was more of the same. Like, why are we running a back 3 against Suriname? Like, it's fucking Suriname. Like, what the fuck are we doing? And I understood what Claudio Vivas was trying to do, where he's trying to stay consistent with the lineup so people don't get confused because we have a lot of very young guys. Like, everybody, there might be like 2 guys over 25 or 3 guys over 25 that's actually playing, starting, or like getting minutes. So, like, I understand wanting to maintain that consistency, but it's like you also got to put your faith in these players. And I think this federation and in their mind, they're so used to playing how they've played, and this is how we got to do it. This is the Costa Rican way for so long because that's what made us so successful. But the times have changed. The development system has gotten a lot better. There's a lot more young talent being produced. I tell Will all the time, I've never seen this much young talent get pumped out of Costa Rica in my lifetime, ever. I mean, we just had one of the biggest transfers in the country's history with Jalen Mitchell. So you need to put faith in some of these young guys. And it felt like finally against this Guatemala game where you're at home, this is a Guatemalan team that is all right. It's a decent team. I know a lot of Guatemalans won't agree with that because I know they were pissed about the results that they experienced. But I will say in terms of like the group that we were in, they were the second best team, but Suriname has proved that otherwise. All right, this is the moment. Put out your best players. And they fucking did. They changed the formation, and they played with 4 attackers, 2 midfielders, and four defenders. And they just went for it. And oh my God, it was genuinely some of the most beautiful ball I've seen them play in years. Literally years. Like the way they're free flowing and working together. Just like you can tell that this is the type of quality we've been lacking since prime Brian Ruiz when he was playing in the Prem and all this stuff. But even so, you didn't have the levels of talent that you do now. And that's, mind you, that's also missing one of our players that left due to suspension. So being able to see guys like Alonso Martinez, who is one of the top goal scorers in MLS right now at New York City FC with 16 goals and 17 starts, which is absolutely insane. Manfred Ugalde in Russia, who's starting to play really well. And one of the other guys who's been kind of like the big storyline since we had Gustavo Alfaro is Kenneth Vargas, who was going on a streak in Scotland. But then when he came to the national team, there was some sort of drama with the coach and all this stuff. And he was upset he wasn't getting playing time because he felt that he deserved it. And honestly, I thought he deserved it. And then ever since that, he's locked. He's been really poor for club. The minutes he does get for Costa Rica was really poor. And now finally with the new interim coach, or who knows, he might be the permanent. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But he looked finally like, holy shit, he's free. So I'm hoping he gets out of that slump for his club and he can play well over there and all this other stuff. So I thought it was a really good second half of the window. I thought Claudio Vivas finally actually is like, all right, he wants to actually have a job. So like, this is what you got to do. You got to put out your best players, because the one thing with Costa Rica, we're kind of the opposite from Panama, where you guys have solid midfielders. Well, actually, I think we both kind of struggle with midfield depth, but like we're very top heavy. We have a ton of attackers, and there's even more in the pipeline. There's so many attackers, but not a lot of midfielders and not a lot of defenders. So the one thing that scares me with Costa Rica is just the lack of depth in the midfield and the defense, because I like our starting 4 and the starting 2 midfielders. It's just if one of those guys goes down, I'm really concerned of what's going to happen. But as long as they stay healthy and they're playing well, everybody's playing well for their club right now. I'm super excited. They're moving on to the next round. They're going to play the Central American Clásico against Wales, Panama in the quarterfinals of the Nation League. We're on a rematch from last year. So, but we're going to talk about that later as we get closer to the next rounds. But I'm really excited to have that Central American Clásico once again. But yeah, I'll pass it to you, Will, real quick, if you want to give your thoughts on what you've seen from Costa Rica, and then we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, real quick, just a few things. Like you said, Julian, dude, give the praise where it is, man. You know, good for you guys. You guys are still battling for that second role in Central America. So it's good to see you guys overtake Honduras and Guatemala. Dude, no, honestly, I will say, all due respect, I think you hit all the points, Julian, with the players, Alcocer. Dude, I don't even think Acuna, who plays over in San Carlos, when Jefferson Brenes went down, his substitute in that Suriname game. Granted, you guys were a man down. I don't even think he looked the worst. He's still young. You could still tell he's kind of, nervous at that stage, but I don't even think he looked the worst. You said the name, obviously, Kenneth Vargas got emotional after his goal. You could tell that, whatnot. I think you guys are in a good little boat. It's going to be fun to see. We'll talk, obviously, more about the matchups in a second with CONCACAF quarterfinals for Nations League coming up. But, yeah, man, I will say, though, you guys really did rock out in that home game against Guatemala. There was a lot of doubt. Julian, I'll be honest, similarly, Panama, we were in that same boat similarly last year. You guys were already in the Final Four, qualified. We were playing group stage. Only difference was we went to Curacao the game before and won. You guys obviously had tied Suriname, I will say. Looking on paper, quite similar. Suriname has a little bit more depth, though, a little bit more bigger names with Geraldo Becker and a few of those guys. But no, I have to say, though, there was a lot of nerves. There was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of not only just, you guys have to top the group. It was, are you guys going to get out of the group? And there was that worry. Even if you guys potentially would have tied, Guatemala would have gone through, Suriname won, and then you guys go in third place and you're eliminated. No Gold Cup.
That would have been that's a whole that would have been a historic embarrassment. It would have been that would have been very bad. Like, it would have been one of the worst.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say, though, you guys got a little bit of consistency. You had a good September window, a good October. Guys, I think Stu Holden, we all know it, the famous American Fox soccer analyst, said it himself. Football is all about the moment. It's all about what's going on right now. How are the players doing at clubs? What's the momentum with the team? How's it rolling? Now, momentum can change, but I will say Costa Rica's got a good little momentum, but that's going to end in November, so
yeah.
We'll keep it going.
And I will say, too, what was really good to see is only 2 domestic league players actually touched the field, which was amazing to see. Only 2, which was the
and both of them
right
did
back,
decent.
Which is our right back, who was good. And, and then, oh, my God. Oh, actually, Acuna. In the second game, there's only one. And then, Acuna came in as a starter because the second game they played Braun, which I'm hoping he plays in England in the 3rd Division, League One. He can finally start getting some minutes, because I thought he had a very good game against Guatemala. So hopefully he can step in for that CDM role and also get some club minutes. But anyways, let's move on to the final team we want to cover, really, and that is Jamaica. I'll point it to one of you guys.
Adam, I know these guys a little bit.
Yeah, so they had 2 matches. On Thursday, October 10th, they defeated Nicaragua 2-0. And then on this past Monday, on October 14th, they had a game against Honduras, and it was a 0-0 draw. Didn't watch too much of the Nicaragua game. I saw a little bit of the Honduras game. I mean, looking at it on paper, you'd have to say that that is a little disappointing from Jamaica. You'd have to think, the team of their caliber with their talent that they've been producing recently should be beating both these teams. It's hard to say exactly, what was going on. I mean, Andre Blake is good for them, but he's a goalie. He's not going to save your ass.
Dude was a monster that first game.
Their center back pairing is actually pretty good too. I know now that we mention it, you guys were talking about center backs in Concacaf. I'd probably say that they have one of the better center back pairings in all of Concacaf, and it's not even that good. I'm just saying I like it. I think it's pretty solid for their team. But that's the best thing about their team. They just they need to find those goals. They have a lot of speed and a lot of athleticism, but they just lack that final touch and that skill in a lot of these games. And it definitely showed in that 0-0 against Honduras. But I like Ethan Pinnock. I mean, Damian Lowe. I mean, shit. Where does he play nowadays? Fucking Saudi Arabia.
He's still a Philly.
He's in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, he's in Saudi Arabia.
That's right.
He's in Saudi Arabia.
He took that.
Sometimes the weirdest players just get that bag. Like that's got to feel like the lottery for somebody like him. Like but for someone like Neymar, it makes sense. But fucking Lowe. I'm sure. Obviously, he's not making their money. But Jesus fucking Christ.
That's true.
But still. I think that's interesting. I mean, their striker in the Nicaragua game is plays for Indy 11. So do with that information what you will. Doesn't even play in the top flight of of America.
The Nicaraguan striker?
No, the fucking Jamaican striker. I do want to say the Jamaican striker.
Mikel Antonio. You're talking about
Romario Williams, the Nicaraguan
Damari Gray.
Oh, yeah.
No, Romario Williams.
I think that was also them trying to test their depth and figure out where they are depth-wise. In both games, it seemed like because even Bobby Reed went back to England to go play for Leicester. So
Bobby Reed was a sub. Bobby Reed was in that game. But I will say that the championship is a weird fucking schedule. The lower leagues of England is just really it's an interesting one.
But I do want to say with that Nicaragua game, dude, you could tell that country is hyped. Did you see that stadium? I didn't watch the game live, but I watched like
that was crazy.
Parts of it. I watched clips of it like back. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like,
bro, they show up.
They were
I know we're not talking about Nicaragua, but they show up, man. And listen, Jamaica, all props to them, because I'm going to say it. There's some teams in CONCACAF. Yeah, and Jamaica did, but I will say, USA going to Trinidad. Dude, there are teams in CONCACAF. I'm talking about heavy hitters, Canada, US, shit, even Panama and Costa Rica. We go to these little Caribbean countries. Or we go to like smaller, Nicaragua or El Salvador, and you struggle. Jamaica held their own, and they won.
Yeah, and the one thing with Jamaica, and every time I see them play, and I was watching the Honduras game, and the same thing in Nicaragua, they lack that creativity. And the thing is, in these two matchups, these are clearly Jamaica's the better team. But the problem is, it feels like Jamaica has a hard time trying to play that role as the better team because they're just not a good possession team. They really struggle to have creativity. And especially when you're missing Leon Bailey, who's supposedly supposed to be coming back soon because they came to an agreement with the new coach and all this stuff. And he's injured right now, but they're talking about in November, he might be back. So, and then we don't know what the whole Mason Greenwood situation, if that's actually going to happen or go through, but
crazy.
It's like you have these attackers up the top with Bobby Reed, Damari Gray, Mikel Antonio. He's a little slower, but then if you get Leon Bailey, then I like the back line. I like Damian Lowe. I like Ethan Pinnock. But man, that midfield, it's where it really struggles. I mean, even a couple windows ago, we saw Damian Lowe playing as a center, as a CDM. So they still need to find that guy. And I know sometimes they like to put Bobby Reed in that attacking midfield role, but you can tell he doesn't. That's not necessarily his best position, and that's not really where he plays at Leicester City. So it's trying to find that linkage. And I don't know. I mean, I think Jamaica's, for some reason, they play better against better teams because it just seems
I
like
agree.
Because when they're forced to be in the position to actually be the team to take over, they really struggle on that, because we saw it even in the Honduras game. They put like no shots on goal. And that was like a really good showing for the Jamaican crowd, because I know the last few times that they've played at home, the crowd has been kind of lackluster, but it looks like a lot of people are starting to get excited. And from what I was reading online from Jamaican fans, they're saying that looks like the country's starting to kind of get behind the team a little bit more. So,
which is good. They're growing.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's a positive trend for them. I'm not going to harp too much on a couple of mid results. Like you said, they were experimenting a little bit. If we're going to talk, we're going to harp on something, but I think they're one of the more positive, trajectory teams in CONCACAF. Where you really see a path for them competing in the near future. Honestly, if they can keep it going.
Will, real quick, your thoughts on Jamaica? Just
real quick, dude. Yeah, saw both games. Saw more of the Nicaragua game. Was watching that live in my house with no power on my phone, so that was awesome. Hurricane Milton, appreciate you for doing that, by the way. But yeah, no, it was good, dude. Like you guys said, I think you said it, Julian. Casey Palmer. They're trying to find Bobby Cordova-Reid if he could kind of play in that role. I don't think Casey Palmer's the worst in that midfield role. I think
I agree.
Obviously with Coventry, he's not the worst, but it almost seems like not only do they can't create Jamaica, I got to say it. They remind me a lot of like this varsity football team in high school, like an analogy that usually whips some ass on these lower level teams. But then when it comes to kind of some equal, not heavy hitters, but equal playing teams that can kind of play up to them, but they should be able to beat like an Honduras, they just don't even give a crap. Like they just kind of go away. And I watching that game, like Damari Gray, like the movement, and it's not that their movements are bad. They almost seem lazy. Like, and I don't want to say that about their Jamaican national.
We lost
We really
Will.
need to get this man a cable.
All right, you're back, Will.
Yeah, but no, listen, just real quick. I think Jamaica's got, like Adam said, they've got a good they've had the depth, but now the question still lingers. And this team, you want to talk about consistency, about Panama or Costa Rica, any of these teams, this team, their middle name is not consistent. Like these guys, dude, like when are they going to be able to pick up back-to-back wins? I mean, really, like this is the last window that they had back in September, a tie and a draw. Obviously, the Copa America. I don't even know if they won both of their World Cup qualifiers. I think they drew one, if I'm not wrong. I'm not too sure. But the thing is, like, still, like Jamaica, they seem so inconsistent at times. But if they can find that consistency, now they play the USA, so it's gonna be a tough game for them. But we'll see. They're a good team though, and the whole Mason Greenwood thing, that'll be incredible if he plays for them.
So yeah, I mean, now with that being the end, at least of League A, League B and C are going to continue to move forward, but the knockout stages are now set. I'll recap it real quick. We have the United States versus Jamaica, Mexico versus Honduras, Costa Rica versus Panama, and then we have Canada versus Suriname. Now we'll wrap it up here on CONCACAF. Will, was there any teams you just want to highlight or talk about how they had good windows and teams you liked, and just kind of like quick recap of some of the lower leagues and other teams that we didn't mention outside the Big Six?
Yeah, real quick. We shout out Nicaragua. I want to shout out 3 teams real quick. And then I also want to bash on one a little bit just because we like to have fun with that. No hate, no love. Listen, Nicaragua shout out. Fans were incredible. Team does not look the worst. Listen, they were losing to French Guiana and they were going to get relegated. Nicaragua put themselves back in a position, not automatically qualifying. They're still going to have to go through the playoff route to get to the Gold Cup. happy for the Pinotaleros. I hope they can do well. Hopefully they can continue. Shout out them. Also, big shout out to the boys of Haiti. Listen, there's a lot going on in that country right now. We don't have to tell you guys. A lot of you guys know it's in a horrible situation right now. Their country, the players are not, though. They're battling. They're fighting. Granted, yes, St. Martin, lower level teams in League B, but Haiti are still pushing. They're still fighting away, and they're looking good. And the next team I do really want to shout out, we didn't get to talk about them. They are in the quarterfinals. Listen, Julian, I know that was a controversial, the Jose Alcocer red card, all that stuff. But dude, Suriname, sure, although Becker's not just the only guy on this team, it's from top to bottom. I think if Suriname can really, really punch a good center back role, a partnership, or if they want to play a back three, and even their wingers, they're really not the best. They're left and right backs, but Suriname plays well, man. I have to say, this is a good team. Arguably, we've always kind of been looking for who's outside of that top 7-8, obviously with Panama, US, Costa Rica, Jamaica, teams like that, who's kind of a little bit outside trying to peek in that. I would say Suriname's the next closest thing. Them guys, they're really fighting. They're really battling. Most of their players play in Europe. Most of these guys play over domestically in Europe. So shout out them. Bash real quick. Dude, El Salvador. How are you losing to St. Vincent and the Grenadines? You are in League B. Listen, they're probably still going to get promoted, but El Salvador, get your shit together. Get your shit together, bro. You are not just embarrassing yourself. You're terrible. And you want to talk about depth? They don't. Dude, Nicaragua has more depth. Jacob Montes plays over in Botafogo. Doesn't play much, but he plays. They got that one kid that plays over in Padilla. He plays over in Finland. El Salvador doesn't have any of that. Every guy that they had, Alex Roldan, I don't want to play for y'all anymore. Eric Zavaleta, I don't want to play for y'all anymore. They already fired Hugo Perez, which is probably the worst choice they ever did in that federation. El Salvador, you're starting to see it. They're going to make the Gold Cup just to get their ass beat every game. Oh, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you with the Suriname. Suriname, they've impressed me a lot. Like you said, they have some European talent over there. They've done a good job recruiting some dual nationals because Suriname is a Dutch colony, so they're able to get some Dutch players and stuff. So yeah, and look, at the end of the day, as much as I think of whatever for the Costa Rica game, that's still a big result for them. I give them the credit, same way I gave Guatemala the credit against drawing us. It's a big results. Granted, like I said, it wasn't the best Costa Rican team at the time, wasn't the best ideas and tactics or whatever, but you still got the result and you at home, and big ups to them. They advanced. They beat, Saint something, which helped them advance on goal differential and moving forward. Oh my God.
I want to say it was
Martinique.
Was it Guyana?
Martinique. It was Martinique.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously beating the brakes on them has really helped them elevate and get that goal differential. So I give them credit where credit's due. Like you said, they might be the next Trinidad and Tobago, because Trinidad and Tobago has really fallen off as a CONCACAF regular in the World Cup qualifying. And it looks like they're ready to kind of take that spot and even potentially hop Honduras or obviously El Salvador is down low. But even potentially hop Honduras in kind of that second and that third tier of CONCACAF, let's say. So yeah, and Guatemala as well. And then another downer would probably be alongside. I'm not going to repeat what you said, El Salvador, but obviously Guatemala. I think they feel like they could have done better that round. I know a lot of fans felt really good about them. But one quick one I do want to shout out in League B. It's fucking the Dominican Republic put a fucking beat down, dude. 12 points. They have a 13 goal differential, 15-2. Granted, they have probably the easiest group in Group B. Hypothetically, if Puerto Rico was swapped out for Dominican Republic, they would have got promoted. But what a beat down. Bermuda, Dominica, Antigua, and Barbuda. But yeah. But I give credit where credit's due. That's a team that's also kind of one of those island nations that are on a rise. They got a lot of Junior Firpo plays for Leeds United, and they got some players, Enes Ascona, so on and so forth. But
they're a country that's soccer is not their biggest sport, so it's always going to be tough for them to get up there.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when they have those. Baseball is.
Yeah, everybody wants to play baseball in Dominican Republic, so that comes first and foremost, and that's just how it is.